Now let's talk about what you should eat and what you should avoid. Not everything I'm going to talk about here is absolutely necessary. You can succeed on this program with doing less, of course. But if you want the fastest and best and most positive results you can get, I urge you to do everything that I'm going to recommend here. I mean, why not? Why not get it done as fast as possible? Remember that with BioSlim, you always eat real food. There are no powders, no shakes, no special drinks. There's nothing that's not real. But real food cuts both ways. You should also avoid, as much as possible, the non-real manufactured foods, like, for example, potato chips or margarine or oil, regular ice cream, the greasy French fries, things like that. There is a lot of really bad, toxic, so-called food out there that just doesn't even qualify for the word food. Remember, you're going to eat real food. Leave the junk where it belongs. Now, as you know, there's no calorie counting or fat gram counting in this program at all. You never count calories and you never count fat grams. Don't do that. We realize, and we know this from long experience, that those things are the hallmarks of what is considered dieting. And it's important that you not consider yourself to be on a diet. Now, in a moment, we'll review the basic principles of your BioSlim Food Plan. Just remember this, when I say you should try to avoid anything, it's because that food is clearly bad for you. It's not just because of the weight you'll gain from it, but also because it'll damage your health and because it'll cause you great harm in many ways other than causing you to gain weight. You need to know this because everything in this program is designed to make you feel better, to look better, and even to live longer. If you follow this program, you will be healthier and you will lose lots and lots of weight. In fact, all the weight that you need to lose is going to come off your body if you follow the program. Here are the simple, basic principles of the BioSlim 2000 food plan. Number one, avoid added fats and oils. Added fats and oils. That's not the fat that is already naturally present in the food that you eat. Just all the oil and fat that we artificially sometimes add to real food. Number two, balance your carbohydrates to your proteins. We'll explain that. Carbohydrates are the starches, the breads, the pastas, the sweets, and the proteins are found in high quantities in meats, fish, eggs, soy products, and dairy, and things like that. This one is really easy, and I'll explain more about this in a moment. Number three, as we said earlier, eat real, recognizable food. Simple. This is a simple concept. Just eat real food, not the manufactured, processed, useless, fat-creating so-called food you can find on some of our shelves today. I'll talk again more about that in a minute. Okay, so what does not adding fats and oils mean? It's probably something very different from anything you've heard before, and it's different in a very important way. You do not have to count calories or fat grams, as we said earlier. There's none of that in this program. And the fat that is naturally already present in the food that you're eating, that's okay too. The only thing we want you not to do is to add additional fat or oil to the food that you eat. Don't throw a ton of oil on top of your salad, which ruins the salad. Don't load your chicken, for example, with cream or additional cooking oil. And don't add mayonnaise to your eggs or tuna. I mean, I think mayonnaise is one of the worst foods you can eat. And that's what I really mean. It's really very basic and very important. Let me tell you why. Nature does not make fat or oil. There's no such thing in nature. Sure, there's plenty of fat and oil in the food that we eat every day, but pure fat and pure oil does not exist in nature. We, humans, artificially extract or manufacture oil and fat in its pure form, and we add it to our food. So added fats and oil is always unnatural, and it's always bad for you. It is the added fats and oils, and yes, I'm talking about saturated as well as unsaturated oils here. In fact, unsaturated oils like margarine and other oils may be even worse for you than the saturated oils. It is the added fats and oils that help cause cancer and heart disease and many, many of the other serious and chronic diseases that we suffer with today. And most especially, of course, they do cause you to gain weight. There are a lot more details about all this in the reference guide that comes with your package. But what you need to know is that eating added fats and oils will significantly worsen your weight problem, and it will greatly increase your risk of developing other serious health problems. Now, what are some common added fats and oils? Things like oil itself, margarine, butter, mayonnaise, which is, as I said, a horrible food, and ice cream. as well as some of the very high-fat cheeses, the creamy cakes, and a lot of the salad dressings if they're made with oil. It's easy to know what has added fats and oils even if you didn't actually make the food yourself. It's all on the label under ingredients. If you see the word oil or fat, just forget it. Move on to something else. Keep in mind that all this does not mean that you have to avoid things like eggs and meat and other foods that have natural fat. It's not the natural fat that we want you to avoid. It's only the fats that you add or the oils that you add to the food that we're talking about here, not what nature has built into the food. And by the way, reading labels is a very important habit to get into. You got to know what's going into your body, and the only way to know is to read labels very carefully. Now, just one more thing. There are some really delicious alternatives to those oily salad dressings you may be used to eating and to other fats and oils that we were talking about just a moment ago. Check out this cookbook, the one that came with your BioSlim package. And while you're at it, there are many other delicious food ideas in that cookbook, and all of them are healthful, and all are made without added fats and oils. You should have a lot of fun with the cookbook. Now, what does balancing carbohydrates and proteins mean? It's really simple. Carbohydrates, or carbs for short, are all the flour products like bread and cake and pasta and potato starch and anything starchy, plus anything with sugar in it, which is all the sweets. On the other hand, proteins are found mostly in things like meat, especially those fat-free deli slices you can get in the supermarket or virtually anywhere, chicken, fish, eggs, especially egg whites, which are pure protein, any soy products, and in all dairy products. Well, not all dairy products, because some of the things like cream cheese are just pure fat, but most dairy products do have a lot of protein in them as well. So what do we mean by balancing carbohydrates and proteins? It's this. Eat approximately the same amount of carbohydrates as you do proteins each day. Balance them. You can eat more protein than carbs. You can eat more of the meats and the fish and the eggs than you do the sugars and the starches. But you should never go the other way. You should never eat more carbohydrates than you do proteins. Don't eat more of the breads and the pastas and the potatoes and the sugars than you do the protein foods like the meat and the fish and the eggs and the soy and the dairy products.
When it comes to green vegetables, which are also carbohydrates, there's no limit to how much you can eat of that.
This is clearly eating in the correct balance. This is the way to lose weight maximally fast. You can use the weight of the food that you're eating as the way to judge how much of that food you're actually eating and how to balance the carbs to the proteins. But it's also okay to just eyeball it. Just eyeballing the food and comparing the sizes of the portions that you're eating will also work. That's the easy way to do it. And remember, part of the BioSlim program is we need to keep everything as simple and easy to follow as possible. One other thing I'd like you to remember, watch out for juices. A lot of people forget that juices are very high in sugar. The best thing to do with juices is dilute them at least 50-50 with water.
If you need to add protein to any meal you are eating, or any made from the recipes in the cookbook, in order to achieve the roughly 1-to-1 balance Dr. Leichtberg has recommended, you can always add some very high, almost pure protein food to that meal. These ultra-high protein foods will tip the balance in favor of protein, which is important. Examples include fat-free chicken, turkey, or soy deli slices, available in the deli section of your local market, or egg whites, or any of the foods from this list. By the way, both the fat-free deli slices and egg whites are pure protein and can be eaten at any time in just about any amount.
Okay, now we've talked about not adding fats and oils to your diet and about balancing carbohydrates and protein. The third basic principle of BioSlim is that you should try, whenever possible, to eat real, recognizable food. It's very simple. Just eat real food, food that you can tell where it came from. I mean, you can tell what a vegetable is and where it came from. You can tell where meat or fish or eggs and lots of other real foods come from. If you can't do that with any food you're thinking about eating, you should think twice about eating it. It means that it's time to read and check the label very carefully. You want to know what's going into your body at all times. That's the only way to stay healthy and to keep your weight under control.